Don't you know that you're a grown up? No games, no punts. Not allowed if you're a grown up.
Hey, welcome back to the GenXGrownUp Backtrack Podcast. This is the podcast between our regularly scheduled one where we select a single topic that we reminisce on from our youth growing up as Gen Xers. With me, as always, I have Mo.
Hey, everybody.
And George is here.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
It is going okay. Today, we are chatting about these magic black rectangles appeared in our homes called VHS.
Yes. Yep. Still have some.
Yeah, I do too. I have boxes of them.
Yep.
Yeah, they're all up in my attic somewhere.
For folks that are a little younger that kind of came along after the origin of home video of any kind or streaming or anything like that.
Do you really think there's anybody younger listening to our older guy podcast?
Well, they might be forced to listen in the car when their dad's listening.
Oh, fair
That's
enough.
good
All
point.
right.
You know, back when we talked about Saturday morning cartoons, we made a point that one of the magical things about Saturday morning cartoons was that's what you had to watch to catch cartoons.
Right.
Right.
And it was because there was no, like, record it and watch it later. There was no stream it, on demand. You watched what was coming over the air because there was no way to record and watch later or watch again or preserve or anything.
No, the only guys who had that ability were the television studios. You didn't have that
That's
at
right.
your house.
That's right. Just professionals.
Yep, and the networks actually used to have to run reruns.
Right.
Right?
Yeah. It was the only way to see
So
it.
if
Yeah.
you miss
Yeah,
it the
there was
first
a
time, you get
purpose
one
for
more shot.
reruns other than just filler. The reruns actually meant something because, we didn't catch this audience the first time around. Let's show it again and maybe we'll catch some more people.
Yeah.
Right. Oddly enough, they used to be called reruns, and then later, after VHS, they were called repeats.
Oh, really? I didn't realize that.
Didn't know that one.
Because it was a rerun, because we were running it again so that you would see it, because they assumed some people didn't.
Right.
Whereas a
Right.
repeat, that meant everyone saw it, but we don't have a new one, so we're going to repeat this one again. It was just, same
makes
thing.
sense.
It was just a
So
different
VHS
purpose, right?
changed the lexicon in the broadcast industry.
Absolutely, yeah. So it was developed by JVC in 1971. It hit the
Woohoo!
United States in
the best year to have
1977.
anything born.
Not that you're biased.
Not at all.
Do you remember the first VHS that you had in your home?
Oh, yeah.
Mo, go.
I mean, the thing had to be at least 2.5 feet wide, a good 8 to 12 inches high, and when you opened it up, like to put the tape in, it was like, I don't know, it just reminded me of a spaceship as a kid. I just remember that, because you hit this button, and this huge thing would like, come snapping up because it's all spring-loaded.
You had the top loader, right?
Yeah, top loader. So it pop up, and don't.
I remember when they first came out, they cost like $1,000.
They were not
in
cheap.
like
Oh, at least,
1978
yeah.
money. We couldn't afford one, not at all. We had one that we rented from one of those rent-to-own places.
Mm-hmm.
We had like a big RCA console TV made out of real wood.
Yeah.
It had to sit on top of that because it was too tall to go under it.
Yep.
Oh man, the like the hydraulics that open, it was
Right.
like putting a car on a lift.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, wow, this is like you said, a piece of machinery here.
The first one that we ever had that I ever got to use actually didn't even have a wireless remote. It had the wired remote. So it was like this little
Oh,
white remote
yeah.
with a wire that plugged into the front of it.
We did too.
Yeah, I remember.
But it had a remote.
Yeah, it did have a remote. And I remember the remote didn't even have all the functions on it. John, you talked about renting things from the local video store. When I was, I think I was 15 or 16, there was a local video store that I'd kind of become friends with the owners. And because he knew I enjoyed tech and had worked with little home PCs and stuff, he started asking me, hey, do you think you could fix one of these things? And I'm like, sure, why not? I'll give it a shot. And if I do, what do I get paid? And he's like, well, I'll give you free rentals. I'm like, done. That's all I need.
If you ever crack open a VHS, and I was the kind of annoying juvenile delinquent who would tear apart all my electronics as a kid to see what was inside.
Oh, yeah, it's incredible.
That thing is a miracle of engineering. Put a cassette in a cassette deck, and you see the tape just goes over some stuff.
Mm-hmm.
A VHS pulls like 2 foot of tape out,
Right.
and it wraps it around a dozen little pinch rollers and
some
cap
drums
stands
too,
and
right?
take-up
Yep.
wheels, and and a video head and a record head. And it's no wonder that every now and then you
Right.
eject one and like a crinkle of tape is still stuck in it. You're like, oh, crap.
Well, and they weren't just like on flat on one plane either. They were angled most of the time. So, like the record head was tilted a little bit. And
That's right. Do you know why?
yeah,
Why?
because that's the way they built it.
Because that's the only way it'll work.
The video head was at an angle because VHS was a derivative of the 2-inch magnetic tape.
Okay.
But a VHS is not that wide. So the way they can get a 2-inch travel area to record on, they record at a diagonal across the tape.
Oh. I didn't realize
so
that.
they end up with a 2-inch stripe because they're going from one edge and then diagonally to another edge to get a longer area to record on.
That's just brilliant.
So the head is tilted in order when the tape goes. It's a miracle of
crazy.
engineering how they got that in there. Who thought of that, right?
Yeah, really.
It's tilted because that's how they get the angular record head.
That's
on.
amazing. And rather than just make wider tapes, they said, nope, we're going with this form factor. Let's just tilt it.
Because those are more expensive. Yeah, they wanted to get it on that small, like, what is it, 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch tape? Yeah.
Well, we also should probably mention the beta option that was out at the same time. You know, the Betamax.
There's a big war between Beta and VHS.
Yeah, a huge war. VHS just totally stomped them, though, eventually.
Well, technically, Beta is superior.
Right.
Oh, yeah, it is. Absolutely.
But it had shorter recording duration. It was more expensive.
It was proprietary, too,
And
right?
because it was more expensive, the porn industry went with VHS, and that was one of the... right? I'm not kidding. That was one of the driving factors in VHS.
Oh, my
Absolutely.
God.
And, I mean, porn's driven the internet. Porn drove VHS. I mean, it was one of the deciding factors. It was cheaper to distribute on VHS, and those are low-budget distributions,
Greatest
right?
common
And so-
denominator.
Yeah,
Yep.
that's true.
Yeah.
I believe you. It totally makes sense, man.
One of the things that's lost for me now in the digital video age, you would go to the local video store, and the thing that would attract you to watching a movie at that point was the box cover art.
Box cover.
We
Yep.
don't see that. I mean, we see like the images of the posters now on your digital playlist or whatever, but back then it was that box cover art could attract you to maybe a lower grade or quality movie that you normally wouldn't pick up, and you would find these gems of the B movie cinema.
That's really the focus of that VHS Massacre film that I
Absolutely.
talked about a couple of podcasts ago, that it's hard to get distribution now because you have to get space on a digital carrier. You can't just put a box in a store.
No.
Right. I still remember like going to like after you've seen all the popular stuff. So now you're digging into the deep part of the shelves of the blockbusters and those things.
Yep.
I used to be able to pick out like really decent like horror movies if the cover caught my attention.
Right.
And then you read the little blurb on the back.
Yeah.
And if I look at those things like, oh, you know, mad scientist, you know, combines man with orangutan. Oh, let's watch that one.
It might be terrible, but
It might be terrible, but I'm intrigued.
the thing about those little
You know?
films on VHS is almost like if you saw it, you were in on a private joke because so few other
Sure.
people saw it. It's like, you saw that too?
Yep.
Yeah.
Now, Sanyo brings you their advanced new video recorder.
That makes great TV recordings. As easy as touching a button. So you'll never have to miss your favorite show again.
Now, we're talking about watching a lot of stuff, but VHS tapes at home didn't just watch, they recorded as well, right?
That's right.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
That
yeah,
was
yeah.
part of the miracle that, you know, you were talking about earlier. Now you went from reruns to repeats. You could record not just a movie or something like, you could record your favorite TV show and keep it.
Yep.
You didn't have to
Yep.
give it back. You could buy a blank
Yep.
tape, record something, and keep it forever. And that was a huge thing for me.
Yeah, blank tapes were like it was like you go to, you know, I need bread, I need milk, and I need blank VHS.
Right.
Yeah.
3-packs. You could find them in 3-packs and 6-packs.
Yep. And you had to make a decision, right? Because they would come, these T120s.
Right.
And that meant that at LP, you'd get 2 hours out of it.
You had less
With
quality.
extended play, EP,
Yep.
you'd get 4 hours. With SLP, you get 6 hours.
Right.
6.
But it sacrificed audio quality, video quality. So, like, if you really, really wanted it, LP was the way to go. But
Right.
if you're like, it was like you're budgeting. You're like, well, where do we put our resources? How low am I on tapes? And can I afford to do that? And
LP was what determined that I needed an entire closet to keep the entire run of Star Trek Next Generation 2 episodes per tape. And I had them
Because
I printed out
had high
special
quality.
labels.
Here's something else that the VHS, I think, changed as far as TV watching, was you now had the ability to watch one show but
And record another.
Oh, right. Yeah, 2
Crazy
channels,
town.
right?
Because usually your pass-through would be what you're watching, and then you would have the channel B would be what's recording.
Yep.
Trying to explain that to people was almost
Yeah,
impossible.
right. Just like getting them to fix
How
the
can I
clock
be
on the
watching
front
this
of it.
but recording
Yep.
that? So now it's like 2 shows were on at the same time. You didn't freak
Yep.
out.
And you notice how it was always the kid in the house who had to learn how to set the clock and program it.
That's right.
So that you know you wouldn't forget to record your Saturday morning cartoon while Dad was watching some sports game or something.
isn't like the eternal joke is like the litmus test of whether you're technically savvy is whether or not the VCR is blinking 12 or not.
Right.
You know, that's
Yep.
kind of like this meme almost before there were memes.
And what's the one thing that you better make sure you do after you recorded your thing? there was one thing that you better make sure you did before anybody else touched that VCR.
Pop that right protect tab.
Yep. If you don't, because
Oh, yeah.
otherwise, you know
Just like
your
cassette
mom
tapes,
was going
right?
to come in there and accidentally, oh, what button do I hit? And next thing
That's
you
right.
know, instead of it being Thundercats, it was going to be Julia Childs all over your tape, and you're going, oh no!
So that's a few experiences that like are gone with the analog media being gone. The right protect tab, that's gone, right? The idea that there's a physical thing you have to cut out or clip out or pop out. And all it was literally a little arm would kind of poke in there. If it was stopped, it could record. If it could poke on in, it would
Not record.
Not record, right. So the other one is the concept of please rewind.
Right, please. There's even a movie. There's a movie with that
I know.
title.
Yeah.
Be kind.
Be kind, rewind.
Yeah, Jack Black.
Yeah, that's right. And Mos Def.
It was a mantra because if you didn't rewind, what happened?
$2.
You got charged
You
money.
get charged money if it was a rental, and rewinding took time. People don't remember.
That was the reason,
Right,
yeah.
and so they sold a peripheral device just to rewind.
Yes.
Yep.
Because people didn't want to waste time rewinding. You throw it in there, and it literally is just a box that grabbed the wheel and spun it.
I remember going to the
video.
video store, and you would see there was one kid who it was his job to take all the returns and pop them in that little
throw 'em in the
rewind
rewinders.
device. Yeah,
And they had a
and mark
bank
it
of
down.
rewinders.
Absolutely.
They had like 4 or 5. That's
Yep.
right.
And it was a high-speed
It was.
rewind,
That's
too.
right.
Like,
Yeah.
For video reliability and performance, trust VCRs built by Hitachi. Look at Hitachi's warranty. A full 24 months on parts at no extra cost, double the competition.
Well, the film industry was they felt very threatened by VHS.
They were.
You know, just like they felt threatened by cassettes and DVDs and CDs. And, you see they all went broke and they're gone now, right? There's no more
there's
movies
no
or
more movies
music.
out there. I don't know what they're doing.
But
Yeah.
they were very threatened by it.
I just go and sit in
they
the
had
theater and cook
pricing
hot dogs now.
structures and-
yeah, they thought people would stop going to the theaters.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah.
I mean, there was an
Poor
impact.
babies.
There was a paradigm shift, of course, but I mean, it didn't kill anything.
No.
right?
Well, it also opened up a whole secondary market
And they
for
started
them.
a huge
That's right.
new revenue stream because those guys went from, millionaires to billionaires anyway, so...
Yeah. Well, the film industry, they
Yeah.
tend to be one of the last to come around to new technologies just because they've been around since, 1900s.
Yep.
It's no surprise that
Like
they're slow to come
1907
around.
or
Well,
something
and
like that.
you know one thing, the VHS tapes leaving, I think it actually did one thing that I don't like. All the smaller production companies, the smaller production houses kind of folded in on themselves because they
Makes
no longer
distribution
had
harder.
that distribution,
Yeah.
right? Now
Yeah, it makes
they
it
were
tougher.
having
Yeah.
they didn't have a choice but to compete in a market that they were already behind in after that.
One of the ways they tried to protect themselves was with copy protection.
Sure.
So
Oh,
you'll
yeah.
remember, so one of the other things we lost when VHS went away, thankfully, was the need for tracking.
Right?
Adjusting the
get
VHS
rid of those
just right.
lines,
Yeah,
you know.
to get the little squiggly lines gone. I remember fighting with copy protection
Yeah.
to try.
Oh, yeah. to get around it.
Yep. But I mean, in the end, did they die? They're still thriving. And I think VHS actually helped to bolster the film industry once they got over the fear of it.
Oh, sure. Absolutely.
Yeah, for sure. Buddy of mine that he would bring his VHS by. If one of us had a movie and the other one didn't,
Yeah.
we tried different cables. Like, this cable gets better picture than this cable. And,
Oh, yeah, you had to
know,
go gold-plated. If you didn't go gold-plated,
Yeah.
you were out of your mind.
I had an RCA signal booster that kind of flattened out that Macrovision copy protection. Not
Yep.
perfectly, but it helped.
But enough, right? Good enough.
So I've got a question for you.
All right.
Yeah. What's
Do you
up?
remember what was the first film you ever watched in your home on VHS, and what did you think?
I absolutely remember.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know about
Yeah,
you guys.
go, George.
What is yours,
Go.
George?
The very first film that I ever watched on VHS tape in a home, and it wasn't at my home, it was at my friend's house, but was Flash Gordon. And we watched that thing. We had 2 films. Flash Gordon, I forget what the second one was, because once we watched Flash Gordon the first time, we immediately rewound it. I think in that first night, we watched it 4 times.
Mo, do you remember the first thing you saw in your home?
See, and I don't know if this is the actual first one, but the first one that comes to mind.
The one that burned in as a memory, right?
Yeah, is Indiana Jones.
Really?
Oh, okay.
The first one.
All right.
Yeah.
Raiders
The
of the
very
Lost
first
Ark.
one.
Yep.
Well, I remember my dad, we went to the store and he actually bought a copy of it.
Oh, wow.
And the thing, I mean, it was like 50
Bought a
bucks.
copy.
Yeah, 'cause
that's
you
what that
didn't-
pricing scale was. Yeah, that was.
He actually bought a copy of Indiana Jones for us. Like I said, I think it was like $50.
Yeah, they were
or
usually
$60
around
or
$49.99, something like that.
And like you said, George, though, we watched the crap out of that thing. How about you, John?
Yeah, I absolutely remember. So, and we went to the local rental store, and that was a first for me because I'd never had a reason to go to a rental store. And they had a deal where you rent 2 and get a third for half price.
Oh,
whatever
okay.
that was
Right,
for
yeah. I remember
10
that.
days. I don't remember the second or third film. I don't know what the 3 was I picked up. but I absolutely remember the first one I watched, and one has an impact on me to this day, is Dreamscape.
Oh, right.
Oh, wow.
Dennis Quaid, Max von Sydow,
Dennis
Christopher
Quaid.
Plummer,
Yep.
right? And let me tell
That's
you,
where you can enter people's dreams.
Yeah.
it's
right?
not a good movie.
I like that movie.
Oh, no.
Let me finish. It's not a good movie, but it's a fun movie.
Yes.
Yes.
You look back, the acting's not great, despite having good actors in it. I think the script probably is more fair. The script was kind of like hackneyed, but it was fun. And I know I watched it. That was the first time I could pause anything, and so I would pause, and pause was so crappy.
Oh, yeah.
It was just all
Like you would get
scrambled.
somebody would like kind of their arm would be jiggling in the background or something when you would pause
Right.
it.
It wasn't until later with the forehead VCRs when you could pause better, but you couldn't really see it, but it was neat to be able to I can go get a sandwich, I could go to the
Yep.
bathroom, you have control over it. And I don't know what the other two things were, but I remember we came back, like you said, George, and I know I watched it 2 or 3 more times before we had to take it back.
Yeah.
You gotta get your
absolutely.
money's worth out of it.
It's one of those things that I think, like, I couldn't tell you the first thing I watched on DVD, but I remember the first VHS.
Yep.
VHS was the beginning of us having some control over our media
Yes.
for the first time,
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
More formats have come and gone, and we'll probably talk about more of those later in upcoming episodes. Not only did it start an industry, but it started, for a lot of us Gen Xers, it started our love with media and having access and controlling it in our own homes. It's just something you can't replicate.
It was the media format of my generation.
And to this day, I have a USB deck that I can plug in and capture VHS.
Wow.
Because I still have a box of them.
Really?
In the new world of video recorders, nobody offers more performance features than this one. RCA Selectivision 650, the maximum 6-hour recording time, an unsurpassed 14-day memory, and remote-controlled special effects.
We talked about a lot of stuff today. I mean, normally we only really covered one subject, but there was a lot in that subject. Anything that we
That's right.
can, we're going to put some links down in the show notes to educate some of our younger listeners and to help some of our older listeners relive their Gen X youth, right?
Sounds good. And hey, just so you don't miss any of our future episodes, be sure to subscribe to us on however you listen to podcasts. Is it Pocket Cast, Google Play, or iTunes?
Yep. And speaking of iTunes, please hop into iTunes and give us a 5-star rating and give us a review. And remember, we are currently in the midst of doing a giveaway. Beginning of December, we're going to look at all the reviews we have in iTunes. We're going to pick one at random, and we're going to ship off a random box of geek and nerd stuff that we've accrued out of our subscription boxes. So be sure you do that. And if you're listening to this and you have a friend who doesn't listen to it, you think they might enjoy it, grab their phone from them, subscribe, tell them, check us out.
And, for those of you out there, we really value our fourth listener emails. So make sure that, you become one of those fourth listeners with us and send us an email at podcast@GenXGrownUp.com.
And don't forget to visit us on YouTube or on our website, which is GenXGrownUp.com.
Thanks a lot, guys. I really appreciate hanging out with you. I always have fun.
Always fun.
That's right.
Yep. Always a good time.
We will have a new podcast next week and a new backtrack in 2 weeks. Until then, see you later on.
See you, everybody.
See you guys later.
No life, no fun. Don't you know that you're a grown up? No games, no puns. Basically, life sucks as a grown up.
This has been a production of the GWW Radio Network. Please don't forget to subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes, Stitcher, and SoundCloud. Also, check out Geeks Worldwide at thegww.com for all the latest news, reviews, and opinions on video games, comics, movies, TV, cosplay, and more. Geeks, assemble!